Well, yesterday, though I guess technically the day before yesterday now, I had a rather interesting run-in with a Jehovah Witness. I'd gone out for a bit of a walk along the seawall near my house, and I see a guy sitting there watching the sunset, and I nod to him and keep on going, and reach the end of the walk, and turn around and come back, and as I'm passing, he says, do you believe in God? Uh, I was surprised, and I say, well, no. So we got talking, and he brought up stuff and started talking about God and Jesus as usual. And I pointed out that I didn't really believe in any of this stuff. And then I asked him, well, what church was he from? Because it sounded like he was somebody from the church I used to go to, which was Pentecostal. And he says, well, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. It's like, ah. And then like I said, we got into this little discussion. He brought up the Bible and evidence and talking about the usual stuff, the prophecies, archaeology, saying that the ark has been found. I pointed out that the ark's been found dozens of times. It gets found every couple of years. He talks about, well, I saw a documentary when he went inside it and all this. I said, well, where's the evidence? Because all we have is this supposed documentary. Well, I mean, the documentary probably happened. We got this supposed evidence years ago. You've got, I talked to him about evolution and all the evidence, and he just kept saying, well, the usual creationist stuff. Just, well, that's not good enough. Well, God just made it that way. Well, that's just that. And of course, it's the usual response I get with a lot of creationists and a lot of Christians too. It's just when you point out a problem or something that contradicts the Bible, either the information is false or, well, God just made it that way. Like, I brought up ERVs and how DNA lines up with the evolutionary chart, how, not just the things that are similar, but the things that have no effect in the organisms line up. He says, well, God just made it that way. You have no way of knowing for sure that that is actually evolution. It just seems to sort of this bizarre argument that we got all this evidence that evolution just happened. It just happens to line up with what evolution says, but to him it's all that. Well, it just God made it that way, ignoring that it would be quite deceitful to God if he exists to do that, considering the large amounts of it. And we went through the whole thing. Can't quite remember exactly how Jehovah's Witnesses are different. I know they think Jesus, at least he was saying Jesus was simply, the actual Son of God, not God himself. And he was talking about Jehovah and whatnot more than Jesus. It's just a really strange, interesting talk. And it was interesting to talk with someone that was a different sect of Christianity, one that wasn't more mainstream. I don't know. I mean, I use most of the stuff that I've used on here, and a lot of stuff I've learned over the years, and try to discuss it with him and point out things, but you kept going back to the idea of, well, what's going to give you hope? God in the Bible is going to give you hope. Evolution is not going to give you anything. If evolution is true, we're all just going to die, and we might even be better off dying. And I'm pointing out, well, that's no evidence, lack of, false hope is still false. I mean, it doesn't matter if it likes it or not. It's still false if the Bible's wrong. And of course, a lot of Christians believe in evolution and the Bible. But I was just trying to point out, the flaws with his arguments. And it seems, he's quite readily to accept anything that, that proves or shows the Bible correct in his mind, but rejects outright anything that doesn't as some part of a conspiracy or being lied to and being contradicted. I even use the usual ones like Piltdown Man and whatnot. He says, well, look at these frauds. You're looking at pointing out to really old frauds over the years compared to all the actual evidence that has been found. I don't know. I mean, so it was kind of interesting. I'm hoping I can run into more people like him or even him again. I like to, try to do these conversations not just online but offline. Not be hostile or anything, but just to learn and just try to teach and spread knowledge. That's the whole reason I'm on YouTube, is I want to teach and spread knowledge that I have. Teach others about what I've learned with science and stuff. 'Cause to me, this is what I enjoy, is learning and discovering stuff. And his point kept coming up and says, evolution, the philosophy, that's not going to save you. That's not going to protect you soon when Jesus returns soon and destroys the world in the wrath of God. And I don't know, to me it seems sort of bleak outlook that a lot of these creationists have for humanity. Yes, there's supposedly this heaven, but the earth and everything on it is going to be destroyed soon. And either it's going to be a brand new earth, or this earth is going to be recreated again, or we're all going to heaven and all this stuff. All the believers are going to heaven. And it just, all the things we've gained with humanity will be lost. Sure, that's technically going to happen if, the heat death eventually, but that's a long ways away, and humanity may have died off long before then. But we'll still have gained something. To creationists, this is just a brief stepping stone, and that quite soon, everything we've gained will be naught, because then we go to heaven forever. I don't know, it seems kind of bleak and depressing to me. Just figured I'd mention it. I found this rather interesting little run-in, and something I never really had too many opportunities to do offline. So it was interesting to test my mettle and see how I did against the real creationists, not just the armchair ones on YouTube. Oh, before I forget, an extra bonus. This will have the debut of a little joke thing that Trithonius gave me to be doing in my videos, and since this was the first video that I felt was really appropriate for it, here it is in its own glory.